Hey everybody, it's Paul Stevens here with iGo Sales and Marketing. Today I have a tutorial on campaigns. I had a few requests for this one, and so I'm going to take you through how to set up campaigns, marketing email campaigns with SuiteCRM. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, sorry, it's been a while since my last video. This is January through March is my busiest time of year. But things are starting to loosen up a bit. So again, if you do need help with SuiteCRM or anything like that, you can contact me through my website. I'll have my information below. Having said that, let's get started. So there are a few things that you're going to need in order to start a campaign. Let me just move myself out of the way here. Okay, so some of the basic things that you're going to need in SuiteCRM before you even consider starting. Okay, so one, you're going to want to make sure that you have your outbound email account set up. Okay, so in this test installation I have going here, I don't have it set up. So you'll see this information here that says you don't have it set up. If you want this to actually work, you do need to set up an outbound email server. I'm not going to do it in this case because I don't want to send out a bunch of random emails to people. But anyway, I'll show you where that is if you don't have it set up. So you want to make sure in your admin here, you have an outbound email account set up. Okay, that's the first thing. So I'm not going to do a whole tutorial on how to set this up. It's pretty straightforward. But if you don't have an email account here, you just want to make sure that you create one and have a system outbound email account set up. There's lots of information and documentation on SuiteCRM about how to do that. If you have problems with it, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll do a video on how to set up your outbound email accounts as well. The other thing you want to check too before you get started is you notice here there's a campaign email setting. Okay, so again here you also want to make sure that you set this up properly. So a couple values that you're going to want to just double check here. Depending on how many emails you're sending out, many email providers have a limit to how many they will take per hour or per batch or that kind of thing. I know with GoDaddy on my VPS, it's like 5,000 per day maximum. Okay, so some of them also have limits of how many per batch and how many per hour and all that kind of stuff. So if you're having problems, you can set this up. Like for example, emails, and I'll show you later, are going to be set up through a cron job, and they're going to be sent out automatically from the server. So for example, if you had a limit of 500 per hour, you could have it, each batch run 500, and you could have the job run once an hour kind of thing, and you wouldn't have a problem with your email server. Okay, so that's one thing. You can also, whether you want to keep copies of the campaign messages on the server, if you're sending out a lot of emails, generally I would say no. If you send it out fairly infrequently, it's up to you if you want to keep copies of the emails. But, if you sent out an email campaign to 1,000 people, why do you want to keep 1,000 copies of it on your server? It's just, taking up space for no reason. So it will keep a record that you sent it, but there's really no need to keep each individual one. Okay, and there's also a link here to your outbound email accounts. And again, you want to make sure you have one set up. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to make sure. Most people, if you've been using SuiteCRM, are going to have that set up already. The second thing you need is an email template. So I'm going to go to, I have it in my marketing menu. You may not have it set up there, but you'll find it here in the all. Okay, so email templates. You'll see there's different kinds here. There's system emails set up that are part of SuiteCRM. They're like default emails that when the system does something, it sends out an email. And then we have one here that I made previously, and I think we'll use this one for the campaign. It's just a quick email put together for a follow-up for a trade show. And this might be a typical kind of thing you might want to send out. So I just put something very similar together. Very simple together. Thanks for your interest at the trade show. If you don't know how this email builder works, I'll just show you really quickly. So it's all kind of drag and drop. Um, I have, hey, contact first name. And the way I got that is if you go up here to variables and you go down to contact, lead, and target, that's the one I normally like to use. And then you'll see here, here's the variable. You can just sort of click anywhere and insert, and you'll see it puts the variable in. Okay. And you can use that for any field that you have in SuiteCRM. If you want to insert like first name, last name, you know, I don't know, maybe there's other special fields you have set up. You want to insert it in the email. You can totally do that. Okay. So that's how you insert variables. The other thing is if you want to add a new module here, I'm going to add a footer to this one since I don't have one. Okay. So normally in the footer, you know, you could put something like the name of your company. And then your, you know, 123 any street. And then your phone number. Okay, that's just an email compliance thing. You need to have your contact information here, and you also have to have an unsubscribe link. So the unsubscribe link, if you want to insert that, let's see here. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Never mind. You do it in the campaign section. I'll cover that later. Okay. So here is my email here. So I'm going to save it. And there's my email. And again, you can put photos in, text, drag and drop, create whatever fancy emails you want. This is just a very simple one. Okay. So that's my email template set up. The second thing you're going to need is, third thing is you're going to need is a target list. So I have one already set up. So I'm going to my target list here. And again, if I have my menus set up this way, you might find it in all here. You can add it to your custom menus. So I have trade show follow-up here set up. And you'll see I have some leads already in there. You must have at least one lead or contact in the target list for the campaign to work. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error. Okay. If you want to add more people to the target list, you can always from within the target list, go here and you can select targets and, you know, you can add a couple. Oh, let me move that out of the way. I think it's messing up with my screen share application here. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to select a couple and just select, and you'll see they're now added to the campaign. Okay, so you can also, if you're selecting people here, you can also search and then select the one you want after you've searched. That can be a bit cumbersome. The other way you can add people to a target list is, for example, if I go to contacts, and maybe you can set up your own filter here for whatever you want. You know, maybe lead source trade show, for example. Okay, I don't know if I have anybody in that. Okay, I do. So you could select them all like that, and then you could bulk action, add to target list. Okay, and then I'm going to select my trade show target list, and there we go. They're all added to the trade show target list. Okay, so that's an easy way to create target lists. You can do it the same with contacts, or even if you have a custom module or whatever, you can add them that way. Okay, so that is my target list and it's all set up. Where did my target list go? There it is. Okay. Okay, so you can see I have my target list and I have a bunch of people in there. If you need to create a new target list, it's very easy. Just, you know, click here, create one, and then add some people to it. Really, the only thing you need is a name here, and oh, I should cover the types here while I'm at it. So the types are default. This would be pretty much any list that you set, a target list of clients or contacts or leads you have. Okay, default is fine. Suppression list, which I'm going to cover next, is like an unsubscribe list, and then the last kind is the test. And you add yourself as a user to the test list so that when you want to test to see what the email looks like when you get it and it works okay, you want to add yourself to a test campaign list. Okay. All right. So that is target list check. Okay. So the next thing you need is, as I mentioned, is a test list. Okay. I don't think I have one set up, but let's see. Okay. Oh, I do already have one set up. Okay. So again, you can just create a list, call it test target list or something like that. And, ooh, I don't want all these people on the test target list. You can just remove people like this. Okay. But ideally, ideally what you want to do is make sure that you add yourself. So under users here, you'll select the list and okay, search. Oops. Oh, I think I'm admin on this one. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Who's here? I am administrator. Okay, there we go. So I just added myself to the test list. You don't need all these people here. You can get rid of them if you like. Obviously, when you create a test list, you're not going to have leads and contacts in the test list. You're just going to have users. That's the whole point. You want to send the test list just to users. Okay, but that's a setting up a test. And the important thing here is the type here. You want to make sure it's a test and then save. Okay, so this is a test list. So I've got my two lists set up. And then I'm going to need a third type of list before I get started, okay? An unsubscribe list. So I'm going to create one here back in my target list. I'm going to create a target list. And there's a number of ways you can do this. So the way I like to do it, I like to have one unsubscribe list for everything. That way, if someone unsubscribes, they will never get another email from me again, okay? I think that's a good way to do it, but you may have a case where you've got like separate lists or something, and maybe you want to have an unsubscribe list for a particular campaign. You can do that as well. But in my case, I like to have one general unsubscribe. If someone unsubscribes, I just don't send them an email again. Okay, so that's the way I do it. And then I always use the main unsubscribe list for every campaign. And then that way I'm sure that people don't get it. Okay, so give it a name. That's really all you need. And then there's a couple choices here for suppression lists, okay, by domain. So for example, if there's a company that you never want to get your emails, you can like put their domain name in there and no one from that company will ever get an email. The second way is by email address. And that's kind of the way I like to do it. So what happens is if an email address matches an email address on the suppression list, they won't get the email. Okay. So that's the way I like to do it, because I mean, generally if someone subscribes for a particular email, they don't want to get any more emails. So you don't send it. Okay. So the other way is by ID. Okay. So the difference between these two is this will suppress an email address. So if a person has two email addresses in your system, it is possible that they will get a future email campaign. Okay. So if you choose to do it by ID, then, they won't, that particular person, regardless of how many email addresses they have, will never get another email from you. Okay. So again, the difference between the two is this one, if let's say your list quality isn't that great and you have duplicate, a person in there twice, then it's possible, if you went by ID, that they would get future emails. Okay. If you have it by email address, that will solve that problem, but it creates another problem of where the person might have two email addresses in, as one contact, right? So you have to kind of make a choice here. I prefer this one, but that's the choice you need to make. Okay. So suppression list, save. Okay, I don't think I need to have anybody on it in order for it to be usable, but that's all I need here. So let's just have a look. Okay, so I've got my unsubscribe list, I have my target list, and I've got my test list. So all those things, check, check, check. My email template, oh, I got that in here twice. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so email template is we already took care of. The next thing we want to do is get into setting up the campaign. Okay, so we have all the components we need now. So I'm going to go into campaigns. And again, I have this set up the way I like it, but you may have it in your exhaustive list of options here. Okay, so I'm going to go to campaigns. Okay, and let's create a campaign. Okay, so you have a few different options here. Okay, one is a newsletter. Okay, and the difference between these two here is the newsletter, it's going to allow you to send like an email campaign to a single target list. And you can always, add more, like January's newsletter, February's newsletter, April's newsletter, so on and so forth. And by using the same target list. Okay, so this option here is a little bit different. This will allow you to send a single email to multiple target lists. Okay, so maybe you have like, I don't know, a bunch of clients, you have industry A, industry B, industry C, and you want to send out one email to 3 target lists. So that's the one you would use. And conversely, again, this one is if you have multiple emails and 1 target list. Okay. So we're going to do this one today. They're very similar. If you can do one, you can do both. It's just you have to decide which one makes sense for the campaign you're trying to do. Non-email based campaign is just, a way of tracking. I don't know, let's say you're doing Google AdWords or something, and you can relate the contacts to the Google AdWords campaign. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't send anybody out, but you can track who, which clients you got from the Google AdWords campaign. So that's a non-email based campaign. And there's also surveys. Maybe I'll cover that in a future episode. Okay, so for now, we're going to do a newsletter campaign. Okay, so it takes you through here a series of steps to set this up, and it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to call this the trade show follow-up campaign. Okay, you can put a description if you want, you can put a status. Okay, if you actually want it to go out, you want to make sure it's active. Okay, so I'm going to make it active. There's some other information it collects here if you care to use this. I rarely do, but the budget and the expected cost and revenue, blah, 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 if you want to track how it did kind of thing in the future. Okay, so next we are going to go to the subscription list, and remember we created all those lists. Well, here's where we need them. Okay, so subscription list, we're going to select one. Okay, so these are the people who are going to get the email, and we want the trade show list. Okay, and then the unsubscribe list, we want to select the unsubscribe list. And the test list, we want to select the test list. Okay, so there we go. We're going to get everything we need. We can go next. It helps if you set up all that stuff in advance because it makes the campaign setup go much smoother. Okay, so now we get to the actual email. Okay, so if we did not set one up in advance, we could build an email here. Okay, I normally like to set them up in advance the way I've just shown you, and then that way by the time you get here, it's easy. So we've got a couple options. We can select an existing template, we can create a brand new one, or we can copy one. So maybe you do one every month, let's say. I often do this, and the next month is slightly different. Okay, so you could copy an existing one and then just change it slightly and then save it as something else. Okay, but in this case, I'm just gonna select an existing template. So here's my trade show follow-up email. Okay, and so there you'll see it's imported it in here. Okay, so the other thing I mentioned is we want to add in a unsubscribe link. Okay, so here's how you do that. Okay, so we are going to create a tracker, and let's call it unsubscribe. Okay, and just click here, opt out link, and it automatically puts the right thing in here. Okay, so let's create the tracker. Okay, so now you see we have the tracker here, and I'm just gonna put here, if you no longer wish to receive, and then I'm gonna insert the tracker in here. Okay, so you'll see there's now an unsubscribe link inserted. Okay, and you can do any kinds of trackers you like. Okay, so like, let's say you wanted to track, we'll go here, like read my, okay, something like this, and you wanted to track if anybody clicked on it, you could create another tracker and read, can't spell today, read my blog is going to be the link text, and https igosales-and-marketing.com. And of course, you can plug in the link you want, obviously, or cut and paste it in. So I'm going to create this tracker. Okay. And you can see here, now I have a couple trackers. I have the unsubscribe one set up, and I have the read my blog one set up. So I'm just going to click here, and then I'm going to insert the tracker. Okay, so now I have a link to my blog, and I can track anytime somebody clicks on it. Okay, I'm not going to cover the campaign tracking today. I might do that in a future episode. But anyway, what this does is anybody that clicks on that, you can now track that, that particular person clicked through to read on your blog. And, if you're monitoring this stuff, that would be a good indication that you should follow up. They're interested in your blog, right? You could do a phone call. Hey, saw you were interested in my blog. What did you think of it? Blah, 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 lead into a sales conversation. Okay. So, everything is fundamentally set up. You can add or edit any of this on the fly if you like. But everything's good right now to go to the next step, which is to set up the marketing part. Okay. So we're going to give this email a name. Let's call it monthly. Oh, no, this is the trade show one. Trade show follow-up. Okay. And then bounce handling account. I hope I set this up. Okay, no, I didn't. So I have it set up in my main one, but in admin here, you are going to want to go to outbound email, edit it. Okay. Let's see. There's an option here somewhere, probably in the campaign setting one. Okay. These are all the same. I think I actually have to set this up in order to have that option. But there's an option here. There's a checklist here that says use as bounce handling account. And what that does is you'll be able to, or do I need to create a new one? Let me just double check so I'm telling you the right thing here. Okay. Let me just see if I can create one. And does it give me that option? No, it doesn't. Okay. If I had it set up, you would select your bounce handling account. Okay. So what that does is if an email goes to somebody and it bounces, it's going to send an email back that says, this person is no longer available or no longer here or whatever. And SuiteCRM will monitor that account for bounced emails. And then you'll be able to track that in your campaign. Now, I don't have it set up right now, but if you have a proper system email set up, you will get that option. Okay. So the outbound email account is going to be the system. And of course, if you had other email accounts set up, your personal one or whatever, you could use that as the outbound email account as well. Okay. So the other thing you're going to want to do is schedule it for, let's say April 10th. Okay. At 11 o'clock. AM is fine. Okay. So the next option is who is it coming from? And you're going to possibly put your name in here, or the name of your company. Oop. Okay. So the from address. Just one thing about email deliverability. Okay, if the system email comes from igosalesandmarketing.com, for example, you're going to want the from email address as best you can to match that. So if you're sending it through like Gmail and then the from address, so for example, if the outgoing server is Gmail, like let's say pstevens@gmail.com, and the from address is pstevens@igosalesandmarketing.com. And then the reply address is, Dave@gmail or hotmail.com or something. You're going to have problems with deliverability because that's a sort of a spam warning. So it doesn't mean you can't do that, but it will impact deliverability. So if your system email is igosalesandmarketing.com, you want to make sure that, it comes from pstevens@igo. Okay, and then reply to is going to be the same, or in your case, it could be different. But again, try and keep the domain names the same as much as you can, unless there's a really good reason not to, because it'll just help you with deliverability. Okay, so that's everything. I hope it's not going to give me a warning here on bounce handling account, but we'll see here in a second. Okay. Oops. Paste. Okay. I don't know why. Yeah, it's not going to let me. It's not going to let me go to the last step here. Okay. So let's see. Will it let me bypass it? No, it won't. Okay. Let me see if it'll let me go to the next step here. Okay. So generally, if you have selected a bounce handling account, you would hit next and then you go to the summary. I'm going to see if it'll just let me skip by here for the sake of the video. Okay. It won't. But the next step is really just a confirmation, and it gives you some options. Okay, guys, so here is how you set up your bounce handling account. I'm going to splice this in the middle of my last presentation here because I had to look it up. It's been so long since I set up mine. Okay, so in admin here, you want to go to your inbound email setup, not your outbound, your inbound, okay? Okay, so if you go to admin, so we set up the outbound email already for the campaign, but you also want to set up your inbound. So your inbound here, if you go here, you'll see new bounce handling account. That's what I was looking for. So, okay, so we would set up a new bounce handling account, and then, you would put in your the name of your account. You can use a Gmail if you want for the bounce handling, the server address. You can get all this stuff from it's your SMTP settings from your email provider, and then you can set up an inbound account. So what's going to happen is anytime there is a bounced email, it's going to bounce back to this email box, and SuiteCRM will check this email box for bounces and report bounces. So that's what that's for. And that's one of the requirements as well for SuiteCRM to set this up. So I'm going to just put that in here as number 2, inbound email account. Okay, bounce. Okay, so that is your final list for setting this up. So here's where we left off, and you can see I have a bounce handling account set up already. And next. Okay, so here you go. This is the next screen that you would get, assuming you have the bounce handling account set up. And so you would if you have multiple emails in this campaign, you would select the one that you're using. Obviously, in this one, I only have one. And then you have a couple of choices here. You can send it as a test, or you can send it at a scheduled time. So generally, I like to send myself a test, and just because I'm going to be on the test list and check it out. The next thing I want to do is send the email at a scheduled time. Okay, so now once you do that, you're getting into the last thing that we need here, which is to make sure you have your cron jobs and your outbound email queue set up. Okay, so once the email is set up to go, okay, I'm just going to cancel this, because obviously I can't save it with, oh, there we go. It let me go to the final screen anyway. Because I couldn't save that one particular field without the bounce handling account. Okay, so if you have that set up, you won't have that problem. It's just that this is a test environment. Okay, so the next thing you want to make sure is, we're going to go to admin here, and we're going to go into the scheduler. Okay, so these are all the cron jobs that run on your server. Okay, and one of them here is going to be run nightly mass email campaigns. Okay, so you can change this to run whenever you want. I generally run them at night, and just because it's, it's easier on the server while I'm on it during the day, and it's not sending out huge campaigns in the middle of the day. But you can set it to whatever you want. I have it set up here. You can edit it and change the timing and stuff. So mine goes, on the hour from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. every night. So if there are campaigns ready to go, that's when they're going to go. Okay. So that's one component that you need. So in order to set this up properly, if you're on shared hosting or something, check with your hosting provider, but you need to set up a cron job. Okay. And this is the key that you need to set up as far as the cron. So it runs all the time, and then it's going to be the path to your server, and it's going to be where cron PHP is and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to need to set that up I had some issues setting up the first time, just getting the syntax right. You may want to check with your hosting provider. And what that does is it just runs all these jobs, and you need to have them running. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. So email campaigns is one that you need to have running in order for this to work. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to check is once you've done that, okay, what's going to happen here is it's going to create an outbound email here. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. In email queue is the one I'm looking for here. Okay, it's going to create, of course, I don't have any in the test environment here, anything in the queue, but you will see all your emails from the campaign here. And there may be, if you have 1,000 people, there's going to be 1,000 emails queued. Okay, so this will send by that nightly job. Okay, at night or whenever you have it set up for as automatically. But if that's not running, you can always force it to go right now, or you want to send it this minute, you can always send queued emails campaigns right now. Okay. And then they'll go out. Okay. So that's how you do that. Okay. So, we have covered pretty much everything. So the outbound email accounts, the email template, the target list, the test list, the unsubscribe list, we've set up the campaign, and we've checked to make sure cron jobs and the outbound email queue are working. And then your campaign should be good to go. Once your campaign is done, let me just check into mine here that I've sent out. I said I was going to cover this in a future email here, but this is one that I've sent out. If you go to view status, okay, you can, I'm not going to scroll down and show you all my contacts, but you can see here that, this particular one sent 10 emails out, one bounced, and, nobody clicked through on my link. So this wasn't a very successful email. But you get some stats here, and then if you scroll further down, you see the actual results of who did what and who got it and which ones bounced and all that kind of stuff. So the bounced ones, you may want to either fix the email, or you want to maybe add them to the unsubscribe list, just so that you don't, you're not resending them again. Okay. So we've covered everything at this point. Moving forward, everything is all done, and hope that you enjoyed the video. If there are any questions or anything, feel free to put them down below in the comments. Please subscribe to my videos. It really helps helps me make more videos that there people are interested in it and subscribing to it. As well, I'll put a link down below. Visit my website if you have any concerns or questions, or you want, I do this for a living. If you want me to help you out with your installation, you can contact me on my website. I have contact forms. I've got Facebook Messenger. You can chat with me. Please let me know, and I'll do my best to help you. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.